Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. We're going to do a legal analysis recap and rant. Now, listen, from the review of the whole story, right? Not a lot happened, but not that many converging storylines. So basically, if we were going to recap this, especially we're recapping who snitched on her, how do we know what's going on with that, and how does that happen, right? Okay, fine. And then I thought, why don't I bring in just Johnda, an actual criminal lawyer, so that our little, fancy Drew detective agency stuff we can actually really work out. So let's get into this legal analysis. Also, before I do that, you guys, listen, all my little Tattle Tells that are watching this on replay, I see there's 12 of you guys in the chat already. Hello. I just want to let you guys know something, right? I am perfectly fine. These YouTube streets are not breaking me. However, I am going through something heavy with my family. If you guys can keep me in your prayers or keep my family member in your prayers, I would appreciate that. But something heavy is going on. So you guys have to expect that over the next, until things get better, I'm going to be an emotional pile of mush. I will be Candace Dillard Bassett 2.0, and you guys might see me tear up from time to time. But you guys, I just want you to know, thank you so much for the well wishes, for the prayers, and for everything else. I was actually tearing up and crying up because there's some real shit going on in the background that has nothing to do with petty wannabe kings of YouTube or like whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? Or kings, queens, or whatever. The knights, the chess. I was watching Queen's Gambit, so like I'm into that. But everything that's going on has nothing to do with the YouTube streets. If you ever think the YouTube streets are going to make me tear up and get all waxing philosophical, you guys are out of your minds. However, just be ready for me to be an emotional mush at random times. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, what's up, New York 1206? Hello, hello, hello. Let's get everybody else in here, right? Let's get everybody else in here. And we have attorney Jess Johnda. You guys, Jess Johnda has a board meeting a little while after this. So she was kind enough to actually join us for this Real Housewives of Salt Lake City recap legal analysis. Now let's put some weight on what everybody is saying. Okay, to start it off, the feds come, right? Let's just get, hey, what's up, a touch of crystal? Let's get right into it. The feds descend on the bus and they come looking for Jen. Now, Jen is already saying, oh my God, I gotta go. Sharif is having internal bleeding. Whatever, right? She gets the hell out of there. The feds descend on it. Everybody is going, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Now, from the gossipy side, I can say that Whitney seemed absolutely thrilled and delighted, right? Thrilled and delighted for this to be going down. She does not like Jen Shaw. She does not like Mary. She doesn't like anybody that has melanin, right? But she literally delights. And she doesn't even have enough sense like Mary to be like, Jesus teaches me not to judge others, okay? Lisa didn't seem to give a damn until she heard Stu.
Crap.
Well, listen, you saw the way she broke down when she heard Stu got arrested. And I said, yeah, Lisa, I think you were snitching and you didn't know that Stu was actually involved and was going to go down too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Meredith, she couldn't be bothered. Meredith was like, yeah, I know. That's why I wasn't on that damn bus. Meredith set the whole thing up. She was sitting there. They probably were like, she was watching body cam footage, right? I think she was watching the body armor cam footage that the feds were wearing. She was just sitting there in her bathtub watching it. So you guys, let's take this from the top. Listen, I want to hear your theories. Definitely. If you guys don't know, just Johnda, she is a criminal and civil attorney and law. She has a lot of experience on this stuff. Why don't you give us your take from a legal perspective of what you saw happening when the feds descended, what they were actually looking for, behind the scenes of what everybody was actually feeling, and also this danger that everybody talks about that they're in. Like, oh, when Whitney's like, we have to tell them everything or else we're in danger. Go on, take it from there. Hey, Mickey.
Okay. Yes. You're operating the mute button.
No, I hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, all right. So, okay. So the descent, everybody was like, well, why did so many people come and the people at her house and all of that? So behind the scenes, as we know from the last time we talked about it, this has been a long-standing investigation. In fact, like pretty contemporaneous with what happened, because we also have to put this into perspective that this was last March. So contemporaneous with what happened, a group of the a group of individuals who were also involved in these matters had entered pleas, some of them even sentenced in February of 2021. So we know, as we tried when we gave everybody the background 2 weeks ago, the dominoes have been slowly falling since around 2017, with this constant stream of co-defendants being snatched up at different times. And the reason for that, as we know, is that so that the one can tell on the next one who's telling on the next one. And why would it be significant that pleas or sentencings were done the month before? Because once that piece is done, it gives more credibility to that witness to say there's nothing else that has been promised at that point. They have given their information. They've been sentenced. Any types of deals that were made or on the table have already been wrapped up. So that is significant in terms of timing. So now, I'm sorry. So now the feds descend when people were getting upset, and understandably so. It was a horrible image, but at the same time, if you want reality, last night, for probably the first time in a long time, right? Bravo actually gave us reality. That's the way it goes down, as ugly as it may be. They show up with the guns. You were charged with a criminal criminal offense. It may be white collar, but it doesn't matter. They don't know what they're going to get, so they show up the same way for everybody. So they went to her house. I do believe, and it does pretty much kind of fall that way. They went to her house first. That's standard stuff. They went there first, and anybody in the house, as we always hear them say, for safety, just to secure the perimeter, anybody in the house is going to be brought out. Horrible image. Let's face it, young men of color. Yes, young men of color, minors. It's my understanding that it was the young man that we saw her playing ball with.
Yeah.
So he is a teenager. Remember, she's got the son, the very handsome one that's in college or about to go to medical school or something like that. But this wasn't him. This is the kid we saw her playing ball with. So very sad foreshadowing as well, because remember, we didn't see much of this kid before we got a face to this poor kid. And then it was a cousin, a nephew or something who, again, very young kids, but sadly, this is what happens. I do believe the footage was I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I have a question. When the search warrant is actually enacted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you come to the house and there are minors there, what is the protocol for that? I know if a search warrant, they can enter. All they have to do is knock. They don't need permission to actually enter. They can just, they don't even need to knock. They just have to identify themselves as officers.
Well,
of the
no,
law
they
and
do
say
need to knock. Yeah, we do. They do knock, and they should wait. Remember, we saw what happened in the Breonna Taylor case. What happens when folks just start bursting in, and that was repealed. So the no knock warrant situation.
Okay.
So yeah, so we already know you definitely don't want to do that. So in this case, they did knock. I do believe that chances are someone did answer the door, but again, them coming out was probably more about who was inside the house. And I would not be surprised if there was Bravo personnel that was in the house.
Oh, Johnda, I think we lost you. Hold on. Seems like
Bravo, the Bravo
okay, there you go.
personnel. There I am. Yes. So as long as you can hear me, that's the important thing. We're brought out of the house in much the same way. The only difference is the fact that it was more sensational, sadly, for them to show us the kids being brought out than some random camera people, right? So anybody in the house, housekeepers, what have you, they're going to show her family. I get it. So at any rate, we understand that a phone call was made. From what most people are talking about, and I'm sorry for the different things going on, everybody. I'm also a dance mom, so I'm waiting on my daughter. The difference, the the so what probably happened at that point is they allowed him, because it's from what we understand, it was the child who called his mother, that it was that they allowed a phone call to say, hey, they're here and they're looking for you. I do not doubt that that is how that went down. If it was not her child, then perhaps maybe one of the Bravo camera people, because as we saw, there was Bravo personnel there. We saw them speaking to the officer. At that point, they were aware, and probably were already aware, that she was leaving, that the group was leaving from Heather's place of business. I do not think that that was a matter of snitching or anything. I think it's just everybody knows where you are. She's got a call sheet.
Okay, so if you don't think it was a matter of snitching and you have a call sheet,
Mhm.
and because here's the thing, they said, well, Whitney said, well, I heard the feds had a GPS tracking, or was
They
monitoring,
pinged her
pinging the
phone.
phone. Okay, but even with pinging the phone, you couldn't tell that she had left the premises.
Well, I mean, at that point, remember, there's timing issue. There's timing issues. These things were happening in real time. Now, once they got there, they had only missed her by a few minutes, because although Bravo didn't show it, well, they did. They didn't like show us mile markers or anything, but when they picked her up on the side of the road, which really is true, she wasn't terribly far away. So these things were. This all happened probably within a course of 10 to 15 minutes. So it's if anything, it was kind of like a goofy case of Keystone Cops, right? You get to one place, the person had just left, you get to the next place, person just left. So that's why I say it probably wasn't necessarily a case of snitching, because of course Bravo is showing us what we want to see, and rightfully so, right? We're fans. So we want to see all the talking and shenanigans in the van and who said what and all of that. But in real time, it's literally like they got there and she had just left maybe 5 minutes
Okay,
before. Yeah.
so it
So,
literally was. So if it wasn't a case of snitching, right? Was it a case
mhm.
of cooperation?
At least I don't think so. I mean, I
Well,
can't say
well,
for sure.
here's the thing. Meredith was delighting in it. She what listen, here's the thing. Meredith does
Oh
not
yeah.
like Jen. I get that. But even if you don't like someone, to hear that they are on their downfall, I assume it would fill you with a little bit of glee. Do you know what I'm saying? And the
Well,
fact that Meredith wasn't even like, oh, this is juicy. So the question I have for you is, it might not be a case of snitching, but is it a case of cooperation? Maybe did
well,
Meredith tell what she knew?
well, if Meredith knew anything, based on the fact that she was so open with talking to her castmates about the other situations, which, let's face it, that was some juicy gossip. I mean, just as a side note, because we didn't know anything about this whole alleged purse thieving thing. I would have liked to have known that during the season. You've got everybody all twisted backwards. We're all debating about, how serious she should be about this whole Brooks thing, and, whether or not she's holding a grudge because Jen is saying she apologized and all that. When the whole time, it wasn't just about the Brooks thing. This woman has these individuals around her that tried to goop you at your place of business. I mean, that story was pretty crappy I mean, it wasn't just that they stole the purse, right? It was the fact that her store was closed. Jen insisted as a favor that the store is open. They don't even spend a lot of money like people of a certain level that get stores open for them. You spend a couple $100, heifer, you could have come the next day. And then on top of the fact that we open the store for you, one of your folks walk out accidentally with some of my merchandise. So now we know her grudge with Jen was bigger. And I'm not mad at it, because, I mean, she has a right to feel how she feels. As far as her aspect, to be honest, given, okay, I'm gonna be a little shady. Given all the work that these women have done, Meredith included, would we know if they're happy, sad, or in between most of the time anyway? Do we ever really know what Jen
Yes,
and
yes.
Lisa's emotions
Meredith was
are?
Meredith was having a bubble bath. Before that, she was like, "Well, it's not surprising for me."
But
She had
again,
a
think
bubble
about it.
bath.
She's already viewing her as a thief. You know what I mean? Like,
But again, listen, I can find out that someone pretended like they were a nice, humble person, and then I found out that they were talking shit about me. And then I found out, and then let's just say hypothetical, I found out that they were running like a low budget criminal ring to get my channel pulled down, right? Okay, fine. I knew that you were a faker and power hungry and egotistical. Okay, fine. I knew that. But did I know that you were conspiring with thieves to pull the criminals to pull my channel down? There are two different things. You see what I'm saying?
no,
You might know someone's a liar and this and that and don't trust them. And then you find out they're like maybe sleeping with your man. There's levels to
no,
things.
and I'm with you. I am with you. You're not gonna, you know me. I'm a criminal defense attorney, so and we are talking like some shade stuff, but we're also talking the law stuff. So I'm gonna find a way to defend people. It's just in my nature.
Defending, but then
However,
this is what I would say as a
even when they come,
prosecution counselor.
however,
But as counselor,
however,
as a
will,
prosecution, do you
I
think
will
that no
say,
reaction is
I
a
will
proper
say
reaction?
in this particular instance, you're not going to find me defending Meredith or any of them for anything. No defense, no prosecution on this. I think with Meredith's reaction, Mary's reaction, even Jenny's reaction, although I think she's in a different situation because she isn't really close to anybody yet except for Lisa. And I actually kind of liked her pragmatic point of view, but we can come to that when we get back to the limo, which was crazy. But as it relates to Meredith, I think I'm just going to chalk this one up to, different strokes for different folks in terms of how we react. You know what I mean? Like, some of us are going to have more, because I agree with you, so I'm not disagreeing with you. Some of us are just going to have more compassion about certain situations. We know that Mary probably wouldn't put Jen out if she was on fire, but she felt bad for her family.
Yeah.
Remember, Mary specifically mentioned the family. Mary is a person of color. She has sons, so she can probably identify with the fact that uh that Jen has these sons, young men of color, who may be faced with losing their mother. And I bring that up because we know that there are other circumstances involved. Mary probably even imagined exactly what we saw, which was those young men coming out with their hands up, the imagery, all of that is horrible. So I think it's just, that's just how Meredith rolls. And I still don't know, and the
You
only
know
reason
what?
why I was trying,
If I could just
yeah,
interject, because I want to just get to this point, counselor, I'd have to put to you, is this really the way Meredith just rolls? Because I saw the way Meredith rolled when Jen said some disparaging comments about her son.
mm-hmm.
Meredith is a hothead. Meredith
I
will call
don't think
you
she's
out.
a hothead
I think she is. She was mad as hell about her son.
because
She
that was her kid, but 50, 11 other times last year we was like, I'm disengaging. I'm disengaging. We
Yeah,
didn't
so
get
somebody
true
that
emotion from Meredith until it was about her child, which we get because that's her baby.
would have okay, so someone came to her place of business and stole from her, right?
Yeah.
Somebody has been disparaging her child. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who has screamed at her and gone off on her in public, right?
Mm-hmm.
Multiple times. And you mean to tell me this woman is playing the I'm not bothered game? Doesn't bother me. I'm
Well,
not
no, I'm
bothered.
not saying that she's not bothered. And I'm not even saying that she isn't relishing in it. My only thing with Meredith is that I don't, based on what we know about the case that, we're going to get into a little bit later and how this investigation is gone and just the nature of these people and even women like Meredith, who we know want to keep their image pristine. And because we know that she's like the haughty one, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
don't
She's the
see
Karen
her.
Huger of the group. Yes.
Yes, I don't see her getting into the mud, calling feds and all of that, because you know what that does? That pulls you into it. That lands you in court having to testify. That gets you all messy. All I'm saying is I think that someone can relish in something and be like, I'm glad that heifer's going down. And they don't necessarily have to be involved in it, but they're enjoying watching it, watching the fall.
So then I'd
And
say
I
to
think
you,
that that's Meredith. Meredith is enjoying watching the fall. That doesn't necessarily mean that she gave the push.
okay, I'll give you that. So then what do you think of Lisa's reaction when Lisa was like acting fine until she heard that Stu got arrested and then she started breaking down? Lisa's reaction was a little suspect to me. Now, from a
Lisa's
federal
reaction was
investigation
hella
point,
suspect.
how do we know? But how do we know that none of them are actually giving any type of subpoena or investigation if it is ongoing? If any of them have ever done any business, ever
Oh
had
yeah.
any money invested, how do we know that they didn't know that she was being investigated?
Well, and that's the thing. And that's where Lisa, to me, gets hella suspect. Again, it's not even because, the whole did somebody call and set her up and whatever. You and I, for what we know about the case and have been talking about this in our last meeting, we know that this whole thing is way bigger than this group of women in terms of the feds being in a position that of picking Jen up at any time. As far as these women are concerned, and Lisa in particular, remember, Lisa fancies herself Miss Businesswoman, right? She's talking about she wants to, what did she say? She wants to be a billionaire in X number of years or something like that. So it would not shock me, a la Lisa Rena and Erica Jane, notice the two Lisas, that maybe there was some involvement with one of her 5011 businesses, which is why she's calling John, she's calling the lawyers. I don't know if the breakdown, the whole thing of the timing of when she went full tilt Lisa fakey tears that never come out of her eyes. um I don't know if that was more of a creative editing thing in terms of that happening right around talking about Stu, because if you remember, she started the like fake broken voice cry thing when she called John initially, and then she like put on the glasses because her eyes weren't red, but we were supposed to believe they were.
Yeah,
um so she was kind of in and out of that fakey cry mode, or at least for me it was off and on that whole time. If the only person who like had a gut wrenching emotional reaction that I actually believe was Heather, and that's because we have seen, just by her willingness to put up with all of Jen's abuse, that she loves the heck out of that girl. Whether or not
yeah,
she should, who knows? But we know if there's anybody on that show who loves Jen's dirty draws, it's Heather.
this is true. Now,
So I'm
do
giving
you?
Heather a pass on the emotional breakdown thing because she loves that girl. Lisa, mm, I'm
I
with Jen.
agree.
Give me the snacks.
I agree that she does love that girl. Now, so Gloria says Meredith looked like she was soaking in new bath salts she never used before. Why was she the most calm?
Uh,
Again,
you
maybe.
already know what I feel about Meredith and her being calm, so I'm just going to be quiet.
Okay, so Amelia said, I'm worried for Mary. Bravo is a trap. It's like they're using shady, less than smart people for ratings. I'm sure they had an inclination about Jen at casting. Bravo sometimes does have inclinations about
I
people
agree.
in the fact that when they research the backstory,
Boom.
nothing matches. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if that's the same
Which
for
makes
Jen.
great television, right? Because they
Well,
research, nothing matches, and then they know the person is a bit unstable. So with them wanting to be a star, so for Bravo, is that being shady, or is that a good chance to take that
well,
if you cast her, all the shade is gonna blow up and you get what we've got here, which for us, it's like, dang, this is messed up. But for Bravo, it's like money, 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 money.
But if I could just interject though, right? Because let me present this to you. I don't know if Bravo actually knew about this. I do because
Yeah,
listen, it's not like they're like a Simon Gabodio or a
I
PK
agree.
where they call the offices and the phone might be disconnected and the website is like down for service and then somebody answers and you go to tour the office and it's a printer and a table and the printer's on the floor. With
I
Mary,
agree
there's
with
a
you
whole
100%.
well, hold on.
Uh,
With Mary, there's a whole church organization. And with Jen, even according to the feds, there's a very complex operation that looks like it's doing something. There's offices, there's this, there's employees, or but it's all built on some sort of scam. So maybe Bravo just saw that Jim was unhinged, but I think that
which
Bravo was
and
like,
we know that they had to see the same thing in Mary, because Mary can't even hold it together for 5 minutes to appear normal. Like just when we're like, dang, Mary's making some sense, all of a sudden it's like, never mind. So
really, I get married. I think I'm going to be like Mary in 10 years. I get married. So I'm like, I'm practicing the eye bulge now. What? You know? What? Like Mary's eyes.
I think now you got me thinking about the eye bulge. No,
Because I think that Mary didn't know when they said it, because again, Mary tries to be a cool cucumber. And I think
no, Mary didn't know. She
she
admitted that she
didn't.
didn't know.
And I think Mary is medicated, prescription medicated sometimes.
That's the sense I
Um,
get from Meredith too. And that when everybody talks about her being so calm all the time, I'm getting
no,
dolls. But okay, I'm
hell
not
no.
saying like antipsychotics. I'm just saying some nice suburban dolls.
Some suburban dolls. So Gloria thinks that Bravo knew about it for a second. She thought it was staged. I didn't think it was staged.
No,
I thought Bravo. I heard excitement in the camera. People's like,
oh,
"Oh,
Bravo was
that's what you were here for." And what's your name?
Bravo loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
This was a production company that, the production team on this. This was like Emmy level work in terms of their ability to pivot and follow the story and all of that, for them to make sure that when they decided they were going to leave, they had someone who was like, and behind the scenes, because of what you know about how the industry works, that there was a producer behind the scenes that was like, I don't give a damn if you have to drive your own car, you follow Jen Shaw in that truck. Because think about it, best case scenario, or not, I don't want to say worst case scenario, so let's say worse and more worse. Worst case scenario, there really was something. Let's say they hadn't gotten a call from the house yet, right? Worst case scenario, you follow Jen and there really is something with Sharif. You still get a real unfolding drama, because this is a housewives show, and you get a real drama of somebody going through the heartache of their husband in a situation. Best case scenario, at least from a Juicy Shady standpoint, your person's being arrested. So so it was great work to make sure they had somebody on Jen, and somebody that stayed with the ladies, and that they still went to Vale. That was key, that they still went. And you watch Nikki just like that, like I do, Nikki Starr, and she talked about this. It was key because you get everybody's reactions together. You don't want them to go home to their respective houses. We got some of the best TV because those ladies were stuck together, having nothing else to do but talk about it. Could you imagine you and your girlfriends if one of your friends got picked up? Like, that's crazy.
Get that? But I don't know what everybody's talking about. This was the best TV they've ever seen in their life. I
What
thought, like,
it was the
okay,
best
they
TV
should
ever.
have.
We've seen way better on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Well, I'm not gonna, and even they haven't given the best TV ever. We've seen better housewives drama even on Atlanta. This was the best for Real Housewives of Salt Lake City for sure, and it was excellent in terms of and I'm just talking about from the production side of it, in terms of something happening very quickly and them catching it in a way that they could give the story to
So,
us.
so if I
I
could just
thought that was
interject,
great.
if I could just interject, I want to say thank you so much for Reggie Greg Blanchard. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter. He said he enjoyed the episode. I think one of the ladies called it, so it would be on camera or production. And attorney Johnda, why don't you think that one of the ladies called?
That one of the ladies called the feds, or one, or who do you think? Who are we
Yeah,
talking
that
about
one of
calling?
the
Because there's a
ladies
lot of phone calls.
that one of the ladies called the feds.
I just, and I guess for me, I just think that first of all,
Puppy,
most of these, oh my God, that's adorable.
I
That's so
know. I'm
freaking
coming to
adorable.
replay my puppy. Okay, get
It just furball. I
We're
just
gonna
think that
cornrow her
I think
hair.
for
We're gonna
me,
cornrow her hair and give her Falani. Put some gold beads in it. Y'all gonna
if
see.
you
Open this
do
dog
that,
up.
that is abuse. Don't you?
No, no, no. We're growing our hair out. Sorry. Okay, go on. The
I
savage beast.
just,
We're still training her. We're still
yeah,
training her.
I
We're still
still
training
think that
her.
I just and call me naive, even with all the crazy things I've seen. I still think that the fact that this was caught on camera was no more or less fortuitous than the fact that Teresa and Joe just happened to be on a reality show when their tax evasion case blew up in their faces and they went to jail. I think that this is just one of those things where it happened when it happened. Filming had been going had started in January,
Mhm.
and it just so happens that it went down that day. Just the fact that we know how much information when the feds are on you. We're talking about homeland security and
Okay.
all of that. With what we know, they can in manner in the way that they can track you. I just don't think it would have even been necessary for any of these women who would want to avoid this situation like the plague to to inject themselves. And I think that's why Lisa was so scared, because I think, now this is, conspiracy theory, of course. I think that there's the possibility with Lisa and her zeal to be it, because Lisa wants to be in the middle of everything, right? She wants to be the center of everybody's universe.
Yes.
I I think that Lisa's involvement and her being all freaked out has more to do with the fact that she may have done some business with Jen, and she's
Oh,
concerned about whether or not whatever business she did with her is looped in with this other stuff. I think that
makes
that's where
sense.
Lisa's real fear lies, because she likes to act like she's in the middle of everything, and I also think that that was why she was so damn resentful. Sorry, so damn. Okay, of the,
Jonna, please. This is
oh,
my
I know we say
channel.
more stuff. I
Yes.
think that's why she noticed how resentful she was of the fact that Whitney could actually intelligently speak to these types of schemes. Just it's and it's not even like, in fairness to Whitney, and not taking anything away from Whitney at all. Whitney, remember, she worked for her husband. That's how he met. He's a business person. I'm not sure what he does, but
All business people know whether they do it or not. They know how the scam is
yeah,
run. Either they've seen
exactly.
it, they've done it, or they've seen people they know get caught for doing it. If you've ever worked around business accountants,
Mhm.
you know how you can cut the corners. It's just like, are you going to actually be that dumb to do something
Well,
illegal?
exactly. And even some of the things that Whitney was saying, which is what made her even more credible, which seemed to just get under Lisa's skin. And I'm glad that we're talking about this, because I did want to bring this up, even under our legal analysis. The stuff that Whitney was saying, as you know, especially as somebody who's a businesswoman yourself, are actually some of them are legitimate business practices, but
Yes,
of course, like anything, they can be abused. Like, for instance, the thing she was talking about with the list. That is something that legitimate people use in
of course.
e-commerce and marketing every day. But like she says, somebody in front of me has their car lights on. Shady people will use that information, and use the different ways that you can filter to manipulate it to just get to a certain population and use it with ill intent. And
Mhm.
like, so, and she was 100% right. And most people in nowadays, anyway, especially because everybody has some kind of web component to their businesses, probably, if they don't use these lists, are at least aware of them because somebody has probably tried to market them to them. And then the other piece she was saying about the starting of businesses, even a basic accountant who does things, and no shade to accountants, I'm just saying basic as in someone who's doing like your regular husband and wife taxes, your basic, we're regular people taxes. They always encourage you, like, do either of you have like maybe a little side hustle, a little home-based business, a little something something, because that's a good way to create tax shelters for yourself, because you can write off losses for things which will help you in other ways. So
Well,
even legitimate businesses know to have other ways to write off losses.
okay. But
Yeah.
this is what I want to interject. We'll talk about this on a different, well, we'll talk about this maybe in like 5 minutes. I want to read these comments, but I just want to let everybody know one of the other reasons Whitney knew so much is because Whitney's business, Skin Genetics or whatever, is literally looking like they might be like the MLM that stepped over
Yeah,
the line. Her
there's that.
businesses are about to be hit with lawsuits, and she might be another Jen Shaw in the making, not, but in a different way. But we'll talk about it. Gloria
Yeah, there's
Agatha.
some messiness there,
Yes.
but
Well,
yeah.
hold on. I just want to read a few comments. Gloria says, Mary seemed like she didn't understand the situation at all. She doesn't know how serious it is. She'll figure it out when Whitney explains to her. Amelia said, I think it was unethical to show the boys coming out with their hands up. It's traumatizing and they didn't do anything wrong. I agree. And here's
Yeah,
the thing,
I had I that bothered me, and I have a
that
son,
Bravo
so
showed
that
it. Not
that
that they did it,
hurt
but
my
Bravo
heart.
showed it. Yeah. Just a few other comments. They're calling on cops. They're calling the cops on each other. Here's the thing. Here's the thing I want to say, right? Whether or not their call was the one that got the feds to get up and go there, I do believe they were like, hello? Who is this? A friend. Jen Shaw is doing things. Watch her closely and hang it up. And then they were calling every Wednesday. Who is this? A friend. Look in Jen Shaw, the green purse. You will find the answers. I really think that's what they were doing, right?
Okay,
Now,
wait a minute. You need to put that on a t-shirt. Look for the green purse. There you will find the answers. I market that tomorrow.
don't tip me. I will. Look on the green
There
purse. You
you
will
will
find
find
the
the
answer.
answers.
And then, so Gloria said, I'd be so unbothered like Jenny. She didn't say much. I like that she got quiet and ate Jen's snacks. I agree, Amelia 333. It was too much for them to show the boys. Let me tell you something about Jen, right? Jenny, right?
Jenny.
Jenny is becoming my favorite because Jenny's real. They seem like they definitely have a lot of money,
Real, real.
but they
Yes.
seem like they started and they know people that are not afraid to get into dirt. Just like Jenny was like, meh, hand me those snacks. Because one, she doesn't really know Jen that much. So I appreciate the fact that Jenny wasn't so fake and like, oh my God, when at the end of the day, you don't know this woman. So it's like, damn, that's messed up. But also the
And
way she
let's
was like,
call a spade to spade. Unlike the rest of them, Jenny probably hadn't gotten into any type of business conversations with Jen. She hasn't supported any of her projects or invested anything because she don't know that heifer. So unlike the rest of them, she's like, whatever goes down, I know there is no splashback on me whatsoever because I'm new here.
okay, that's true. But then also look at this, right? Also, the way her husband was like, I think somebody set them up. Get sorry, puppy problem. Will you get
Well,
her?
we know who
And
set
then
them up. They're co-defendants.
and also, Jen had a good point. She said, "Listen, um, she has not entered her plea. We do not know what the
That is
charges are.
correct.
She hasn't had a chance to defend herself. Everybody, calm down." That's
And that was 100% correct. I would
mhm.
have said that. I know that you would have said that. Absolutely. And she was right because remember, in that, because we're looking at it all in retrospect. In that precise moment, there was, like she said, one article. Okay, it became a million. But at that moment, she was speaking on what they knew. One article. They didn't have the DOJ paperwork. They didn't know all this other crap. One article, she was 100% correct, and I don't know that heifer.
This is true. Now, there's a couple things I want to put in front of you, right? So when it comes to her being arrested, when it comes to her actually getting, Whitney was really saying, we need to tell the feds everything we know or else we might be in trouble. I looked at her and was like, Whitney, shut up. Don't ever talk to the feds if you don't have to, unless you're the one that is looking at possible involvement. If they're like, listen, we know you're involved, start talking, and you have to clear your own name. Would the feds actually, after she's been arrested, come knocking on their doors to see what they
Absolutely.
and would they how much information would they have to give them? So let's just say that they knew that Jen took the green purse, right? How much
Well, we
information
know
would they
Meredith telling that. Hell, she told it on TV.
give? Okay. But let's just say that she hadn't, right? How much trouble okay, one, they would come talking. How much trouble would you get into if you weren't giving the answers?
Well, it depends on, I'm going to give you a lawyer answer, right?
Give it
It
to me. Give it
depends
to me.
on it depends on the question. Okay, if I'm somebody who I don't want no parts of this, I'm staying uninvolved. It depends on the question. If you are asking me, have I ever done business or been involved in any way in any business transaction with Jennifer Shaw and or Jen Shaw, I'm not sure if her name's Jennifer. If the answer is no, no. If you ask me, do I know about any type of fraudulent, let's say I'm Meredith, by the way, I'm speaking as Meredith. If
Okay.
you ask me if, so the first answer is no, I'm assuming they haven't done business. If that's the answer, let's say no. It seems like they haven't. If the, or maybe she'll say, well, actually a better answer to that question, which is still not problematic. She has purchased items from my store. I'm a business owner. She's purchased jewelry from me. She's purchased tracksuits, the one tracksuit he has, from my son. That is a legit answer. Have I been involved in her businesses? I have supported her charity event. I went to what I would understood to be her office Christmas party. I have not invested in any of her actual enterprises. That is a legitimate answer if you want to give a full, complete answer. Or you can simply say no, because you have not done business with her. So either of those answers are correct, especially if you're being truthful. Both are correct, and the more expansive answer makes sure that nobody can come back to you and say, well, why didn't you tell me this? Because there's nothing wrong with that answer. If they ask you, are you aware of any fraudulent activity? My answer is no. Why? And now, again, speaking as Meredith, why? Because even with that theft situation, while it was somebody who was a part of her employ, there is no proof that Jen personally did it. So to me, that answer would be no, unless they ask about her associates in any criminal activity, and then you would answer that.
Okay.
So
So
I
I
think
just
that's it.
So I just want to interject. Thank you again, Reggie Greg Blanchard, for the super chat. Reggie said, Whitney and her "we're in danger" comment. Haha, she is so funny, right? However,
I think
attorney
I can understand feeling like you're in danger. I would have.
Esquire, okay, but Esquire John, I need to put this question towards you, right? Part of the reason why the people with the now Erica Jane's thing did not turn criminal, okay, so it's just being
There's
completely
all
at this
crazy.
moment, right? We'll see what happens. So Jen's is a little bit more unique because it's criminal. But I just want to point out that one of the reasons why people try to stay away from people whenever anybody's under investigation is because Esquire Johnda just gave a scenario where they ask you questions and you answer truthfully and honestly. My understanding of the feds, my experience with the feds is you say, they come to me and they're like, hey, Tisa, do you know anything about Esquire Johnda? And I'm like, I mean, she came to my store, she took a cookie, I'm not sure she paid for it, blah, 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 blah. That's it. But the feds think I know more. So the
But this is
feds,
the
hold
thing.
on, let me just finish
I
this,
wouldn't
Johnda.
answer that question, but go
Okay,
ahead.
but hold on. Question's not
Mhm,
over. Let me just set the scenario up for you, right? So
mhm.
the feds think I know something. And they say, now Tisa knows something because we're trying to get something out about Johnda. And we think Tisa knows it. And we have reason to believe Tisa knows it. So the feds start digging into Tisa's background to see if
Mhm.
there's anything Tisa did. Ooh, I see you returned that library book from third grade is still sitting on your dresser. Ooh, I see last year with the tax return, you claim blah, 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 blah. But where's your home office? The feds start snooping into my background. So they come back and they have a list and they're like, all right, Tisa, let's get to this. And they run down everything that they have against me. And they say, but you know what? All of this pales in comparison to what Esquire Johnda could have been doing. Now, again, I ask you, what do you know about Esquire Johnda? Do you think that would be a reason for them to be scared?
I think if you have anybody who has anything, let's call a spade on this one. Great question, by the way. I think
Everybody has something. We live in an over
exactly.
litigious society.
I
Everybody has
Everybody has
added a
something.
zero to their income when they needed a
Right?
mortgage. They maybe said when they were getting their credit line application, how much do you make in a year? I mean, I could say I made 260, or
I mean, we
I
all
could say
have
I made 460. They not
those
gonna know.
little things.
Yes.
I think most of us, especially reasonably intelligent people who know you have something to lose, right? I think that most of us, I sound like a dog waving at me or something. I think,
That's my puppy.
no,
That's
no, I mean in the
Kimber.
car next door is freaking me out. Okay, so I think that most of us um know kind of the difference between stuff that we may have done, like a little cheat versus a big cheat that we can get arrested for, that we can get arrested for.
Okay.
So I think that's a short answer to that. Now, going back to your original question and why, and see, we try to teach here, right? Why I would advise not to answer a question, what do you know about so and so? That's not a question. That's just trying to get you
Okay.
just having diarrhea of the mouth and anything and everything comes out. The what in that situation, well, first of all, you and I both know that none of these women I would hope that at their, given their level of money, and it sounds like all of them went to college, that they would know by now that they wouldn't even sit down for this questioning without an attorney advising them, right? I mean, come on. What's the odds of that? Lisa's calling allegedly 6 lawyers, and we're going to talk on a different day about whether or not I truly believe that. But but anyway, even if you just got one, those of us regular people, you would be nuts. And people at this level, I couldn't imagine them doing it, especially when they already know the trouble their friend is in, that they would sit down or go in or whatever and have this conversation, because you're not charged with anything. So your interaction at that point should be amicable, which means you shouldn't have a problem with me bringing an attorney. And don't give me that crap that any law enforcement will tell you, well, if you didn't do anything, why do you need whatever? I'm a citizen, I can have representation, period.
Exactly.
So anyway, if I were sitting next to you, I would say, I'd be like, hold on for a second, client. Could you clarify what in particular are you asking her about as it relates to her knowledge of Johnda? Is there
Yeah.
something specific you're looking for? Like, give me a period of time. Is it related to her children, her mom, her law practice? What is it that you are asking her? And so that would be the way that we would break that down, and that would be very helpful, because that that's not even about you lying. That's making sure that you aren't in there actually putting yourself in a situation that you actually haven't done anything. Because imagine if you haven't done anything at all, you legit really don't know anything, but you're just sitting there confused and worried, because who wouldn't be worried and afraid talking to Homeland Security or whatever? I've had this, I've been an attorney for 20 years. That would still freak me out. I'm
Yeah.
especially, even unless I'm there representing somebody, I'm freaked out too. Okay. So you don't, you anybody can unwittingly implicate themselves, even if it's not anything important and it'll all get fixed in the wash later on. But I don't even want to get involved in anything that we got to fix in the wash later on. And I got to have my name dragged through the mud when really I was an innocent person who was just scared and running off at the mouth and said something dumb. Um, like that makes me think about like somebody like Mary when people said that Mary seemed like she didn't know what was going on or whatever. If we remember, Mary even said she was honest about that she didn't know what was going on. Remember, she said she didn't know anything until she landed, because remember, she flew. She didn't know anything until she landed in Vail and got a call from Robert. And
Yeah.
then that was followed up when she was talking to Robert. She appeared to be asking Robert questions. And again, we have to look at this from a lens of March, April. I think it was March, right? Now I keep saying March, but maybe it was April. But anyway, we have to look at it from a lens of that day, not everything since day. This is day one. They haven't even slept overnight yet. So, but yeah, great question. Wouldn't answer it.
I want to answer that. That is great advice, you guys. Again, I hope none of you guys are
Clarify.
ever
What
in
the
a
hell are you
situation.
asking?
But
Yeah,
whether it is your local friendly police station or whether you are hauled off into the southern, northern, whatever district or
Southern District of
whatever,
New York is where
yes,
she's going.
yes, whether you're hauled off into the southern, whatever it is, I would
You have a
100%.
right to
Well,
ask for clarification.
it's not even asking for clarification. I wouldn't even mess with those questions. Get
What?
an attorney. If you cannot afford one, keep your mouth shut until you
Mhm.
can. Because
You're
again,
not charged with anything.
and they're allowed to lie to you and use trickery in interrogation too.
Mhm.
Don't forget that. They're allowed to say, listen, just agree and we'll let you go home. Or we have other people talking. They're allowed to do the Supreme Court many times has ruled that they've given them a wide swath to play
Mhm.
hard and fast and loose with the truth. Your rights, you don't have as many as you think. And even if they flat out lie, you say something and then you come back and you're like,
There's certain parameters, obviously,
no,
like
but in court, it's hard. But
it
tell
can't
the
be
truth,
crazy,
attorney.
but they can it can be trickery. It can't be like
Counselor,
way out.
counselor, you and I both know that the case law that whenever police
Yeah,
officers use case trickery, you
yeah,
and I both know that the odds are 90% to
yeah.
10% they're going to go with the police officer's thing. So
Well,
even
and
if
it depends, and that's why
yeah,
I said there's levels to everything. And even
there's
with that,
levels.
we do know that you can't be in there telling somebody, you better tell me blah 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 blah, because we found out that your mom died and we're
But
not
there's
letting
case
you go
law.
to
But there's
do
case
whatever.
law where
But
they've
yes,
done
there's
that.
case law that allows trickery, but there are certain things, especially things that would incite an emotional response, and you know it, like something, and like I said, it's extreme. Like the
True,
example I
true.
gave about a mom dying is pretty extreme. But at the same time, sadly, that also tells you the parameters, because it is kind of wide, because it does, in order to kick it, it does need to be pretty extreme, where there's no question that the way that you trick them basically put them in duress. And somebody who's in duress is obviously going to pretty much
I,
give you the
I would
farm.
just like to say,
Yeah.
counselor, that the case law on that goes even
Mhm.
further. Where, yes, in a perfect world, oh, you use trickery, you use this. Now, let's look at three real world things in. One, now you have to have the little side trial about that matter, about whether they use trickery so you can suppress the
Well, yeah,
evidence.
you would
Now,
have
but
somebody do a
two,
motion to suppress the statement.
motion to suppress. But two, we also have to say, do we have the money for all this? Because you are going against people with deep pockets, and you
Well,
have
that's the case. Sadly, in any case, the color of justice is black and white, but is also green.
exactly. Now,
Yes,
three,
and
even
green can conquer everything.
but even if they look at that motion to suppress, there might be something because they look at it as okay, so we'll pick what we want. If you suppress A it doesn't mean that B, C, and D are also suppressed. So even if
Well,
you
it
have
depends
the
on if it's fruit from the poisonous tree. It kind of depends on where those other things fall. But the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine is sacrosanct. So it really depends on where those other statements fell.
counselor,
If it is something that falls under that tree, then yes, it will fall. But if something was on day A, something was on day B, so you got to make those connections.
I get that, but counselor, I'm
Mhm.
talking about a real world with the average
Real world fruit
person.
of the
Not
poisonous tree is really important. Mhm.
well, it is important, but I'm saying in the case law, when it actually gets in front of judges, and even when it
Mhm.
goes to court, you and I both know there's plenty of case law where people were under duress, coerced, but then they were found guilty. And when they tried, right, when they
Mhm.
tried to have things overturned, or even when they put their habeas corpus in, they look at them and they said, okay, the cops might have did this, but knowing that wouldn't have changed the guilty verdict.
Yeah,
So we
well,
are where we are.
that's what I'm saying. There's different doctrines that deal with that. Now, if we're talking about fruit of the poisonous tree, that's a different situation. If the judge grants the motion to suppress that evidence or that statement, then that's wonderful. If all the rest of the stuff fell under that. Now, the other piece that you're talking about would be is if some of these things got through when all of those motions went in already happened, then when it went up on appeal, yes, the court says, well,
No,
you're right. The
I think
judge below should have suppressed it,
mhm.
but he didn't, but it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. So yes, you are
I'm
right. And
saying
so if
that
it makes it past that.
no, but I'm actually talking about both things. I think Esquire Johnda, she is doing the lawyer thing, playing
Yeah.
devil's advocate. And I understand that because that's the mark of a good lawyer. You argue both sides. However, I'm saying for you guys in the chat, it is incredible. The weight of the odds are stacked against you because they give them such a large swath that it would have to be such a glaring error, a glaring miscarriage of justice for them to even consider taking your statements out. Most people don't have the money. Their lawyers don't have the
Again, it
manpower.
really depends because if
There
the
you go.
lawyer knows what they're doing, I'm telling you, statements get suppressed all the
If you're
time.
lawyer, call
However,
attorney
it
Esquire, call
depends.
Esquire,
Tell me.
John. But if you're a public offender, you better keep your mouth shut and just think long and hard. That's all I'm saying. You can roll those dice
Well,
if you want.
really, nobody should be saying anything. I'm
Sure.
just gonna just say that flat out. Until you speak to your counsel and you decide with competent counsel and advice, or not even decide. First of all, you are informed and
True.
understand fully what is going on, what you're accused with, what you're accused of, rather, what needs to be, what elements of, or what the elements are of that offense. I'm sorry, it's late.
Yeah.
And more importantly, because I can say that and people are like, elements of the offense, what the heck? What that means is, what is it that the prosecution has to prove in order to find you guilty? That is something that is very, very important that your attorney should explain to you and make sure you fully understand before you can make an informed decision with, of course, with your counsel
Yes.
about what those next steps are. Are we going to look towards taking a plea deal or even being the ones to approach them?
Yeah.
And we put something on the table. But most importantly, we can joke around all day about you better run, you better do this, all of that. But all jokes aside, you should never do anything when you are not fully informed of the facts, even if the facts are related to you, because the
Mhm.
only thing that you know are your version of the facts and what it is that you think you did or didn't do, even if you're guilty as hell. But
Yes.
meanwhile, the prosecution, who has the burden, has specific things that they have to show in order for a court of law to actually convict you. And
Hmm.
people ask me all the time, how can you defend people that you know are guilty? And I know there's probably people there who are like, how could she do that? Well, the answer is simple. I go into this knowing that every single person is guaranteed by the Constitution of certain rights. And one of those rights comes down to, well, we know you have the right to remain silent and all that, but the most important, you have a right to due process. And part of that is that you shouldn't be found guilty of anything that was not proven. So it is my job as a defense attorney to go in there and make sure that my client, who may be guilty of sin, is not convicted of something that the prosecution couldn't prove. If you've got the proof, then you bring it and you prove it. If you've got all of your elements checked off in a row, I could talk until I'm blue in the face, but absent nullifying the jury, you're going to win.
True.
But if you don't have it, and I find those chinks in the armor, then sorry, this person go free, because we would rather 100 men, guilty men, go free than one innocent man be convicted. And I do truly believe that. And so that's how I can do what I do.
Absolutely.
And even if it's Jen Shaw.
Absolutely. Jen Shaw should have had you on her team. Listen, Attorney Esquire, thank you. You guys know
Yes.
she is so good, criminal and civil. You guys, this was not legal advice. This was just as
Not at all.
chewing it up, chewing the subject off, swallowing the meat, and make sure you spit out the fat. If you have any questions, we're going to put also in the description box and in the comments box ways that you can get in touch with Attorney Esquire. But more importantly, she has a wonderful podcast. You can follow her on Instagram. She does notifications, and I'm going to put a link to her podcast in the description box as well.
Thank you, because I'm in my car, so I can't do anything right now.
I'll do all that. I'll probably pop up on one of her podcasts. Maybe we'll do a true crime.
Yes, we still have so much to talk about with this.
Yes.
That's, oh my God, this case is like, it's definitely, finally they got to it on the show. But guys, with the stuff, and I know this kind of keep watching Tisa, because with whether I'm here or not, she has all the information as well. There is so much more that, because what is it, 6 months has gone by, there's way more information available now that they will not have gotten to on the show, because they stopped filming in May, June.
Yes.
And even though we know they're going to try and like pick at her about it at the reunion, this isn't some civil stuff like with Erica Jane. Once she says, my attorneys have advised me, although she clearly isn't following their advice, because I would never let my client go on a reality show, but that's a separate thing. But
she got her attorney after.
Exactly. If she has enough sense to say, my attorney has advised me to keep my mouth shut, at that point, I know the fans are going to get upset with her, but just so that you are smarter than all the other fans on all the other shows, from attorney Just Johnda, she is saying the absolute right thing at the time. Her case is pending trial. She, at least at the moment, she is not doing what her homeboy Stu Chains and the rest of them are doing, which is flipping. At least at the moment, Jen has not admitted to anything, and her case is pending trial next spring. So if she shows up at the reunion, the smart thing for her to do would be like, I'm sorry I can't talk about it, and I know that's frustrating for the fans, but that is the absolute right thing for her to do. But if you want some more juice of the stuff she can't talk about, keep watching Tisa and listen to my podcast, because we've got the other juice, which is why she can't talk about it.
Yes, and also just to let you guys know before we go, we are Mary Crosby's BS hits the fan. On the next episode, we will be talking about that, because Attorney Johnda is locked and loaded, and she actually has some really, really good tea about that. So next week we will definitely be on it. Attorney Johnda, thank you so much for joining us. I'll make sure to put links to all your stuff in the description box and in the comment section. And you guys, let her know if you have any questions. She'll be in the comments. And of course,
I'm always floating around.
Yes,
or DM me on Instagram. I check my DMs. I don't just ignore them.
Oh yeah. Oh, so Nerva wants to say, though she's here late to do the moral obligations. Those are always good to keep. What she did get from you was very informative, and she
Oh,
wants to thank
thank
you. Thank
you.
you, Johnda. You are doing a great job of, again, we're trying to be messy, but let's put a little bit of like reality into it to see
Yeah, I love the
going
mess.
on.
If you haven't picked up on that, you're gonna get some mess. I love the mess, but
Yes.
we like to, inform while we talk mess.
Yes, the video from last night was actually deleted. I'm doing a new recap. I'm actually going through something on the personal side right now, and it
Mhm.
spilled over into the recap. So I'm redoing it. When things are, you get some sleep, you get things better. And I
Yeah.
just ask you guys to keep me in your, well, keep my family in your thoughts and
Well,
prayers.
we are
Everything will be
definitely
good.
praying for you.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
once you feel up to it, because you got to take some time, give us whatever you've got on this Simon and Portia stuff, because
Oh,
they started heavy promoting last night. I don't know if you noticed that, because I know that you're in a different time zone,
who
but
did?
at least here, they on the East Coast feed, they were in heavy
Who
promotion
was?
of
Bravo?
Portia's show. Oh, Bravo, yes.
What did they promote?
No, they were showing like actual commercials for her
Oh,
show.
okay. Yeah, yeah. I saw that. I saw that too. Yeah, yeah. They finally
Yeah.
started promoting. We were saying, when's it
Yeah.
happening? The show's happening next week.
But
So
didn't
yeah,
they say the end of November? So maybe that's appropriate. Is it the end of November or early December that this is supposed to start?
it's supposed to be November the 28th is the first show, is when
Oh,
it's
okay,
supposed
so
to start.
that's sort of,
That's
I
not a
guess,
lot of
2 weeks.
promotion. That's 2 weeks. That's not a part of promotion for. But then
Well,
again,
you know what they're doing? They're filling it into the Real Housewives of Potomac slot, or maybe using it as a lead-in, because this was part two of Potomac. So
uh,
Potomac's got two more parts. So I guess one of the shows is gonna get pushed. They'll probably use, you know what? We Now it makes sense what they're doing. You know what they're doing. They're using the final episode of Potomac that they know is going to be the most watched, because that's
yes,
Nicki Minaj as the
yes,
springboard into Portia. And they'll
yes,
probably just let the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City sit for a week, because it's not going to
yes.
hurt it. Everybody is paying attention now because of the Jen Shah situation. That's what they're doing. They know that
That's
they're going to have
exactly
their
what they're
biggest
gonna do.
numbers ever because of the Nicki Minaj fans, which are, let's call a spade, a perfect spillover for Portia stands. Kind of, probably no shade, but it's, that younger group that's kind of the Portia demographic.
They're
So it
younger.
makes
I just
sense.
think they might be a little bit. They like to see, you
Mess,
know.
well, it's mess on top of mess for sure. But I'm saying, as far as like viewers, it kind of makes sense to give that Nicki Minaj push to the Portia Atlanta. What is she, the queen of, what was she calling herself, the princess of
Queen,
Thoughtlandia,
yes,
that whole
Princess
thing.
of Scotlandia.
Yeah, so now it makes total sense. It's the Nicki Minaj push.
Exactly. It's a Nicki Minaj push. Gloria says it's the 28th. All right, attorney, Esquire. Thank you, counselor, for all your time. And thank you for
Yes,
taking
gotta
this
get to
last
the
minute
meeting.
thing. Listen, you gotta love, she's a hustler. She gets it done no matter what. I know you have a board, you have to do
Yeah,
dance hall stuff, and you have a board meeting. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right.
you have a good night.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.